Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Pull Up Trade Podcast. I'm your co-host, Samson Folk, and I am, of course, joined by the other co-host, the namesake, Trey, who pulls up Trevon Heath. How you doing? You got your get back in Game 4 against an antagonistic force. How are you feeling?
I'm doing good. This has honestly been one of the most entertaining final series probably in the last like 4 or 5 years, which is good to see because we've seen teams kind of get blown out for the last week or so. But
There's
I'm not here to talk about this though.
there is, I'll say, a clip of you speaking about what this finals might be. And you were like, I think it'll be good. I'm looking forward to it. And well, guess what? It was good basketball.
Yeah, it is quality. But I, a mere mortal, just watched the game from from
Oh, yeah,
TV.
sure.
My dear old friend, how was it watching the game live?
Dude, it was great. It was incredibly fun. The crowd at Gainsbridge Fieldhouse was nuts. Like
Yeah,
absolutely
you get
incredible. Um I and also like Pascal and Ty were both nicer to me than my friends usually are, they're so yeah, it was nice going down there, man. And also like you don't realize how small a market Indiana is until Caitlin and I guess like looking relative to the other podcasts and stuff like that is just see how big the numbers are, and then just like walking around, it seems like every fifth person at the arena watches the podcast. You just get stopped by
oh
everybody there, and it seemed like so small in that sense, which was really cool. It's like an intimate environment, it's like
mhm.
college basketball almost a little bit. So that was great. It was hell yeah. But a mere mortal, Jesus Lord in heaven,
I'm
that's crazy.
I'm I'm proud of you. You're
Oh
doing your thing. You're watching the finals. I know this makes you uncomfortable, but I am very proud of you. It was awesome to see.
yeah, thanks, man. I don't know what. Anyway, um, yeah, we're here to talk about the draft,
Yes.
as we have been doing for ever at this point. God, it's been a lot of draft content we've put out, which this episode is basically we're staking the claim. We've looked at a bunch of players. We've talked about a bunch of players. We did the mock draft. We're gonna name our favorite guys. We're gonna talk about them, and we're finally gonna have that head-to-head CMB versus Queen conversation because I'm higher on CMB than Queen. Trey's higher on Queen than CMB. Both have talked to the Raptors. I believe both have worked out. So like that's that's fun. That's good. We're gonna
Mhm.
have it out. We'll be looking at who we like for 9 and 39. Trey, do you want to, before we do this, do you want to eliminate 5 or 6 prospects with me that like we don't discuss them? Because it'd be like I'd love Cooper Flag for the Raptors, but that's
Yeah.
nonsensical. Okay, we'll go back and forth and eliminate a few guys then. So Cooper Flag off the board.
Yeah. Dylan Harper's not going to be there at
VJ
all.
Edgecombe, no.
Ace Bailey, I highly doubt too.
Trey Johnson, no way. I feel like Trey will has a better chance of not falling than Ace almost.
Yeah, I would say so too. Like Ace, Con Knipple, and Trey Johnson are kind of like their own like sort of orbit, and it's you don't know how that's gonna go from like three to like from like 4 to 7 probably.
How would you rank those three, by the way?
Um, I think I think it would depend on the team. I think the best current player of the three is Trey Johnson. Trey Johnson, Con Knipple, and then Ace Bailey. But I think from an upside perspective, I would flip flop Ace Bailey and Con Knipple.
So Trey is your
Yeah,
highest.
I think undisputed. He's too good of a shooter. His movement numbers are absurd,
Yeah.
and if he can just put the ball on the floor just a little bit, he's gonna be great.
I think I'm like chalk with you. Exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to choose between Con and Ace. And I know Ace for some people is still like the second best prospect. He
Mhm.
there is a wide idea of where he could be, but I guess let's also say Con. Sure. Con.
Yeah,
That, that okay, that's number
he's not
6.
gonna be there.
Okay. I'm gonna swing it to you then. Your favorite prospect at number 9 for the Raptors. The name while we're doing a live stream, you hope gets called. You can fall to your knees, say thank you, God.
If the Raptors make this pick, this will be the most excited I've been in the history of my time as a Raptor
Oh
in any
my
pick.
days.
I know they picked Scotty Barnes at 4. I was more Jalen
You
Suggs
didn't
filled
you
than
didn't know that he was Jamaican at the time.
that is also fair. I changed immediately in the broadcast.
Yeah. If you
It
if
was
you
very
had
exciting.
known, if you had known, you would have that famous video at the RR draft party. You would have been sprinting.
Jokes.
Yeah.
But Derek Queen, I think if he is at 9, he would be the best available player. Both and also have just an amazing fit with like the Raptors. There's like a gaping hole in sort of like for a backup center. They've tried with a bunch of G League guys, 10-day contract guys, and there isn't any like I doubt that Colin Castleton is going to be playing like real NBA minutes for the Raptors. Um, but Derek Queen fits everything that the Raptors are trying to accomplish 1 through 5. Like Darko's offense has put a huge precedent on being able to pass, shoot, and dribble, and being able to have that versatility to make quick reads and put pressure on the defense from any spot that you're on the court. Um, Derek Queen, he's one of the most unique prospects in a sense that he's for his size and his skill set, he's somewhat like a six has a skill set of like a 6'4", 6'5" guard. He has one of the best handles in the entire class, not even just being a big. And he utilizes those skills and his physicality and size to be a battering ram at the rim. And he also proposes that with quick processing skills and being able to pass all around the court. The Raptors use Jakob in the sense and run a lot of offense through him. They would be able to have another guy who plays 10 to 15 minutes a night that can fill in and do all the things that they ask for Jakob offensively, with the added pop of him being able to put the ball down on the floor and a be a real threat offensively in the sense where Jakob isn't, aside from his floater. And I think like the defense concerns, which are fair, they are one of the teams that are uniquely positioned to have a center that may not be the greatest in front of the rim, because Scotty Barnes, from everything we've seen in the second half of the season, is going to be an all NBA defensive 4 beside him. So I think it's a great fit, fits what they're doing for their offense, and there's the upside of him becoming a big star.
So, dear friend of the show, Chuck, had a tweet where he was like, what did he have? Like, Dylan Harper is a great 6'5" driving guard. He's like, what about a 6'10" driving guard? And then it was just the clips of Derek Queen kind of boogieing. This was a question that ND Talks Ball DM'd me, and I thought it was good. He didn't know we were going to be discussing this, so kind of like serendipitous that way, but was wondering how you and I see Derek Queen playing next to Scotty, and then wants to juxtapose it with CMB, which is what we will be doing. But
Mhm.
as far as like the 5 stuff, if Jakob Pertl, like Derek Queen drafted at 9, he's a young man. You want him like 7 years on the team at the very least, right? You
Yeah.
want to be able to do that. How do you feel about him at the 5 going forward? Even like, yes, Scotty can cover up some stuff, but it
Yeah.
probably doesn't give you that elite outcome that you might want, right? So
Yeah.
how do you feel about that pairing?
They're gonna have to, if he becomes like the long-term 5, they would have to change the way that they play. Um Ironically, like Derek Queen's like best asset defensively is like his feet and active hands. He has very good feet for his size. And Maryland utilized that and they switched a lot in order to hide some of his deficiencies in front of the rim. And I think if he one, there's the added upside of, I hate saying this, but like if he gets in better shape as well.
Oh, nice.
There's the added upside of that athleticism popping even further. And if you play within more of like a chaotic defense that's switching all over the court, utilizing their speed from both of their bigs, I think it can work in the sense where it's his upside offensively allows for being able to play this type of style of defense, because both of those guys should be able to rebound for their size like fairly well, and that should make up for the fact that they aren't playing the most like conservative style of defense.
The big thing for me is I believe so much of what he does offensively.
Yeah.
It's just hard to see like that fluidity, the ability to get to the rim. Like he reads low man, he reads rotation really well. He's just such a talent going downhill. It's like,
Mhm.
man, that kind of stuff will definitely be there. He just has to supplement it with other things. And then a big question for Queen in particular, because we ask it of driving guards,
Yep.
is like, what happens with the jumper? Do you believe in it? Sell me on that.
I think his mechanics are bad. Like it's clear that it's like it's more of a dart, and there's no
Mm.
arc whatsoever on his jump shot, and he doesn't
I've
use
seen
much of
Aaron
his.
Nesmith throw some darts, man.
Oh my god! Oh, but I think like his touch is high level. You see it from the free throw line. You see it on the runners that he makes. You see how he can score in traffic and in contact, and utilize the glass to make shots. So I think that will translate with better mechanics overall, because he has the skills and gifts in order to do so. And then maybe you're looking at an outcome where he could potentially play the four in certain lineups, like how Minnesota uses Nas Reed. I think that's an outcome that could possibly happen for him also.
The Nas Reed, yeah. There's, I guess Nas is a little bit bigger, but there's that skilled movement thing that's
Yeah.
that's present there. Yeah, definitely. Um, I think the settled stuff, like the catch and shoot stuff, I think he'll probably figure it out. I agree with you that the touch is relatively elite. On the other side of things, that my guy of who I think will be available at number 9, Colin Murray-Boyles, is another guy who does not shoot the three ball well.
Yeah.
In fact, when he was doing the catch and shoot at the combine, he went 7 of 25. Just really, really bad. On his pull up twos, though, he went 22 of 30, which was one of the best marks in the whole combine. He is a 71% free throw shooter, which is not great, but isn't bad.
Mhm.
He finished on over 400 like layups, 63% at the college level. Shot 54% on his hook shots. He scored 17 points per game. Colin Murray-Boyles can score the basketball, and he's smaller than Queen, to be
Yeah.
sure. But those are the two most impressive front court drivers of the basketball
Mhm.
in this draft class. And one gets talked about as if that's a huge part of their game, and one doesn't, which I find quite interesting.
Yeah.
Colin Murray-Boyles is smaller, though. This is the big thing here. We're talking about what, like 6'9" barefoot versus 6'6" barefoot,
Yeah.
6'6.5" or 6.65 barefoot. It's just there's a stark contrast there. The good news for CMB is that he has a gargantuan wingspan. He has all the tenacity in the world to guard up if asked about it. And I know people don't like. I am big CMB guy. I really
Yeah.
like his game. The piece just came out today, and everyone is like, "God, please no." I see it all the time. People, Raptors fans are not in on CMB, and I listen. I get it because at first brush, there's a lot of things there. You want to talk about the jumper, that would probably have to come around in some capacity because I know he gets the Draymond Green comps and
Yeah.
Draymond is able to succeed without the jumper being a huge, like being present for him. But having that as like, well, if his jumper doesn't work out, he can just be Draymond. It's like, no, 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 no. Nobody gets to fall back into being one of the best defenders ever. The jumper probably has to come around in some
Mhm.
capacity for him. He has a disaster of a jump shot. He has a low pickup point. His guide hand gets in there so that it becomes a two-hand flick quite
Yeah.
often. The rotation on the ball is inconsistent. And it's like hitch after hitch. It's like stopping point after stopping point. A lot of points of failure. And yet, in spite of all that, I think during his career, it's something that he will be able to sort out because similar to Queen, I think he has a tremendous level of touch.
Yeah, that's
The
fair.
way he finishes at the rim, his runner, his hook shot, the fact that he's okay enough from the free throw line, and the fact that he quite competently hits pull up middies, it makes me feel Well, actually, this is not a confident thing for me, by the way, just so the listener knows. I'm not super confident in this, but it gives me hope in that. And if CMB shoots the ball at all, the
Yeah.
other stuff that is present in his game is incredible. I haven't talked about his defense yet. He is a one-man wrecking crew. He
Mm.
can play no matter what you want to happen in defense in 2025 and going forward, whether it's you want like these super aggressive shows, whether it's you want like insanely aggressive hedge and recover, if you want to play drop, if you want him to switch, he can do all of that stuff and will do it at the NBA level. We're going to talk about Jeremiah Fears today. CMB has a hedge on Jeremiah Fears where he just sprints him back out to half. Jeremiah Fears falls over and CMB just plucks him. That is the best handle in the draft. That is the quickest guard in the draft. And
Yep.
CMB just blew him up coming off the edge. Like sets the edge, no one gets around, and doesn't allow a split. I'm using a lot of basketball vernacular here. Basically,
Yep.
on-ball players have a really tough time getting around him or getting in between him. And that is because CMB has similar like agility stuff at 240 pounds to Carter Bryant and Cooper Flag.
Yep.
And his hands are meat hooks. He gets in everything, which speaks to on defense. If he's off ball, the digs, he's an incredible nail defender. He jumps a lot of stuff as like a weak side zone guy.
Mm.
He reads players really well. And what remains to be seen is that vertical pop, that length, standing reach plus wingspan, how he can do as, a guy who provides something in rotation at the bottom end of NBA defenses. At his height, you wonder.
Yeah.
All of that stuff. Is there anything that I said there that you're thinking like, I don't believe it, or it's like it doesn't give you a lot of confidence?
Like obviously the jump shot, there's nothing that obviously shows that like he's gonna be able to shoot. But I the defense, I wholeheartedly agree. I think he's the best defensive player in the class, to be honest. I think where I differ between you with Queen and CMB is that if Queen never learns how to shoot, I think he's still going to be able to get to the rim and be able to score in that fashion. One, because he just has the size and physicality, and then his handle he can get within really tight spaces. And within college, he played beside another non-shooting big, and was able. His driving numbers were still off the charts because of the skill that he has. I think with CMB, a lot of his work is utilizing his like outlier strength to create and score over a lot of guys. But at that height, I think there's going to be some difficulty. I think he has to be able to shoot to like hit hit a ceiling that you want to be. But I think what's not discussed is that he's actually one of the highest ceiling players in the class. Like if he learns how to shoot, he becomes one of the most unique players in the NBA, and one that's like a linchpin within like a championship. He's a championship for a long period of time. I just am unsure if he figures out the rest offensively without the jumper.
Yeah. That's a great point, is that like he has outlier touch now at the college level and has to use it all the time. So what does that look like at the highest level? Does it
Yeah.
require something else in the toolkit? Because typically things don't just translate easily. And if they do translate, typically it's because it is that elite, but also because there's um, compensatory skills
Yeah.
around it that help elevate it. To Andy's question about the fit, I actually, though, on the one hand, the offense could be terrible, like it could be extremely
Yeah.
clunky. Um, However, I do think that they obviously have a much higher defensive upside than Queen and
Mm.
Scotty, and it would require like those shifts to feature different coverages than what you'd get from Queen. Like
Yeah.
Scotty and CMB together, I think would be an incredibly friendly defensive partnership, even if they were the 4 and the 5, even if that was quote unquote small. I think that the length and tenacity and athleticism and weight that they can both throw around, the strength,
Mhm.
would allow them to compensate. And I think they would disrupt a lot of stuff. I think they'd be extremely good on that end. For it to work, I think it would require probably more of Scotty offensively at the beginning, which is different than I think the Queen and Scotty partnership,
Yeah.
which Queen can help a lot of stuff, but CMB might have to be carried offensively by Scotty in that partnership because CMB would clearly be like the hub guy and would clearly move through stuff. And that would put Scotty in a position as, an offensive player that wouldn't be as friendly as maybe playing next to Queen. That's kind of the situation. Ultimately, and I'm a believer in CMB. I think the CMB Scotty pairing is a fruitful one and one that could work because I really do believe in talent. So I'd go there. But that's just you and I. These are our guys from this draft class.
Yeah. I think the question for me with the CMB pick, like with at 9, you probably I don't foresee a world where like he's on the team for a long period of time and he's a starter on the team, along with Scotty Barnes is still around. And at 9, you want someone that ideally can start for your team or you think has a chance of doing so. So I think that's what also leaves me like some pause. Like if it's San Antonio, if it's OKC that like trades up for him, that makes tons of sense. Even Houston, to be honest, that makes tons of sense. I think for the Raptors, there's some challenges there too.
Do you think it was odd that San Antonio was like Sohan is not available? That surprised me a little bit.
Yes, I thought they would give him away for Kevin Durant immediately.
Yeah, it's they obviously have a different vision of things. His playmaking is quite unique at his size, but there's a lot of other struggles there. But CMB, I like it, man. I think he can start. Like
Mm,
I here's the thing, and this is I'm sticking to the principle. Like when we talked about it, it's like talent over fit. This is me just leaning into that. I'm like,
yep,
I think CMB is going to be one of the best players from this draft class. So I'd pick that guy and let the chips fall where they may. And I
makes sense.
trust that he'll be a good enough player. And I know that there's a divide on this. Like many of the best draft or the most popular draft analysts have said, like, I think he swings a lot depending on where he's picked. And I'm like, I hope he's good enough that that doesn't matter. And that's the fingers are crossed. CMB versus Queen. We finally we
Yeah.
had it for anybody who wanted us to each state our claim. Who is your number 2 at number 9?
Another, I would shed tears if we draft this brother as
Shed
well.
fears.
Shed fears. Wow, look at you, marketing guy.
Methinks.
Uh, Jeremiah Fears. I think it's if Queen isn't there, I think he's probably the next best player on the board. The Raptors, in the time that I've watched the team, have never had a guard this electric, someone with this type of handle, this type of athleticism.
You watch
That
Kyle Lowry.
oh man, he was more like a Peyton Hillis type guy, you know, more
Wow, yeah,
a
dude.
thumper.
I hated watching Peyton Hillis run because I always liked the speedy backs
Yeah,
and just watching him hit the gut. The HB dive repeatedly. I was like, I hate this, dude. I
yeah,
hated
four
it.
4 or 5 yards. It's like Kyle Lowry's like hockey assists. It's like,
Yeah. Okay,
but
yeah, you know what? This just gonna this just gonna piss me off. Go ahead, go ahead. It's true. Fierce would be the most like dynamic mover since Damon, probably.
yeah, yeah. And S has watched at least 15 of his games apparently. So,
Nice, yeah.
okay. Jeremiah Fears. I think he's rare in the sense that typically like the guards that are the most athletic typically don't also have the handle that he does. He's the quickest guard in the draft, along with having the best handle, which showed and popped in Oklahoma a ton. He operated a lot in the pick and roll, uh, in a sense that in the similar sense that an NBA guard would, and parading and controlling the entire offense around him. Even when he wasn't getting all the way to the rim, he was creating looks for everybody on the court just because of the attention that he was drawing, and he was able to. He doesn't need a screen to blow by guys, but when he
Mhm.
does, he has the passing vision to be able to operate an offense, which I think is super huge and super key. He also isn't. I think he differs from guys. I've seen like some comps of like Colin Sexton or like just a straight burner in a sense. And I
I think
think
his handle is far better than Collins now, and especially when Collin was drafted.
Agreed. And I don't think Jeremiah Fears is like a straight line driving guy. He takes a lot of angles. He's willing to bump his way to the rim, which bodes really well, especially as he ages and fills out his frame. And I like the fact that although his finishing at the rim wasn't the greatest, he does not shy from physicality. It was one of the reasons that drew me to Jacoby Walter, and I think it's the same for him. He's willing to bump his way to the rim and take contact in order to finish. And then also he's shown from like a catch and shoot perspective that he might be able to play off the ball and be a good shooter. He shot 36% from there. His shooting numbers really plummet from the amount of pull up jumpers that he took in the context that he also played in. He also showed really good touch from long twos, and I think for him as a guard, if he's able to hit that at a really high clip, he becomes extremely dangerous. It allows his playmaking to pop even more, and it gets him to a level for that leads to like a star outcome. I think I'm fairly high on him because he's one of the few guys where you can see this guy can make the All NBA, an All NBA team if everything goes right. And I don't think there's a lot of prospects in this class that
I'm
have that outcome.
when I This is a good thought exercise, I think, is kind of Scoot Henderson. They're not one to one, but Scoot
Yeah.
also really strong handle. Scoot's smaller, shorter, but much bigger, obviously.
Yeah.
Scoot, obviously, incredible mover, very very twitchy, very athletic, has a really rock solid handle. Although I think
Mhm.
Fierce is better. When you look at how Scoot has translated, and it has really come around at the back end of this past
Yeah.
season, are there things that you think Fears does better than Scoot did at the same age, roughly?
Yeah, I think Jeremiah mixes up speeds a lot better,
Mhm.
and like is more creative with it within the lane. Whereas Scoot as a prospect, which I really loved Scoot Henderson as a prospect. I think with his handle and his driving style, it still is very downhill in that sense. And where Jeremiah, um, his best talents is how he moves laterally. He weaves into the rim and utilizes his handle, manipulates that, and then gets into the rim. Like Scoot, I think he's one. He was a rare athlete coming into his class.
Mhm.
He didn't necessarily need that level of creativity to get into the lane like that, especially in like the G League Ignite, where you aren't condensed in a much smaller floor like in college and surrounded by non NBA players like Jeremiah Fears was in college.
That's a good point. The size of the floor, I didn't think of that when I brought that up. That is a good point because when I watched G League Ignite and I think I saw 5 games of Scoot
Mhm.
before he got drafted. I was like, I did like that he changed speeds, and I did like that because he does change speeds, and
Yeah,
he
he does.
did, but he didn't change angles that much, which I think is like a really good point. Jeremiah Fears, he does create a lot of because that's what really great point guards do is they change where they have to be met if you want to pressure their dribble, and they change
Mhm.
who comes to meet them, and in that switching and whose job it is to cover him, they locate layups for bigs and stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah, and Scoot definitely was like had a change of speed, but a lot of it was just like midi pull, and it all stayed on the same side of the floor for the most part. That's a good point, and it's something that Scoot is developing now.
Mhm.
And big shout out to S, who was actually not lying when he told me he was like, I'm on that Scoot train, man." And then I was like, "No, you aren't." But then it turned out he really was historically.
Mm.
Any other things on Jeremiah Fears before we move on?
I guess to touch on it, the defense isn't good. There's obviously concerns from there. Like looking into the playoffs, like it's extremely hard to play very small guards. You need to have requisite strength in order to stay on the floor these days because teams attack you constantly. I do think he has a lot of quickness to like be passable defender. I don't worry about the defense as much because I think he can be the lead guy in your offense and handle the ball to be and allow that to be worth hiding him on defense.
So the pitch is that he'll be so important offensively that like you'll be able to put pieces around him
Yeah.
that help him out on defense, basically.
Agreed. Yeah, I don't think he's going if he hits like his higher plane in terms of like his ceiling, I don't think he's going to need like a secondary ball handler that relies that he relies on to help create opportunities for him.
Okay. So one more selection at number 9 before we each decide who we'd like at 39. Carter Bryant. I think Carter Bryant, there's one thing that limits him because honestly, I don't care that much about it's the same thing with CMB. It's the same like what I did was I went and watched a film on all these guys and I'm very okay with being wrong. This stuff is a crapshoot anyway. And again, I'm not selecting for the Raptors. They're the ones who have to get it right. I'm just telling you what I see. And I watch film and Carter Bryant puts a lot of great stuff on film. And I think his athleticism pops way off the page. I think that like again, his size and his fluidity is really, really great. And it's something that I think his jump shot is like the mechanics are excellent. And I think that he will be one of the best shooters from this class, however many years down the road. I think he'll be a guy who steps out on some of the best offensive players in the NBA, plays off of weaker defenders to gum stuff up. I think he'll, like, we're watching in the finals right now how fluid teams have to be and how
Yep.
connected they have to be. Players like Carter Bryant really help with that kind of stuff, where I presume he will. That's the big pitch, is that it is 3 and D right now.
Mhm.
And 3 and D right now means he has to develop a lot to put the ball down. A limitation of his number one offensive limitation is what it looks like when he dribbles. And when he does dribble, it looks more like, he's been in the gym, like trainer stuff, like going through
Yeah.
combos and stuff like that, rather than intuitively putting the ball down, finding an angle, attacking the top foot, reading the defense, and knowing like I have to put the ball here and go here, attacking spaces. It's not like reading the floor super well on that end, although he reads it exceptionally well on defense. That kind of stuff will hold him back initially. But I have talked to a couple people that watched him from very early on and around him that like his work ethic is supposed to be like incredibly like big, massive. And that he is a guy who has been like, this is what I'm like. He understands the parts of his game that he has to fill out. He has a very clear idea of what he's supposed to be at the NBA level. And that clarity to me with his athleticism is really, really important. And his jumper and his work ethic, because role definition is so important in the NBA today, and knowing where you have to work and how it might translate to the NBA is so, so important. All that stuff makes me think of him as just like such an impressive 3 and D player going forward, which maybe is not like the home run that
Yeah.
people want at 9. But when I look at guys who play and like it's hard to draft a star, and I
Yep.
would be surprised if the Raptors drafted a star at 9. I would, but you need
History
guys
says
who
it's a Hall of Famer.
well, there we go. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who it gets picked. Trevon told me that Masai will locate the Hall of Famer. So what we say doesn't matter, which is good. The pressure's off. But Carter Bryant will play next to the best, like will play next to and enhance the best players of this next Raptors era. That's what I see here. And that I think is not the sexiest pitch. And I know you're a big pitch guy. You're like, well, and maybe I'm not giving you the best right
Yeah.
now. But for the audience, that's my pitch. It's not a sexy one, but I'm like, this guy, if the Raptors are playing in like 2027, really meaningful playoff games,
Mhm.
Carter Bryant will be on the floor making an impact. And that impact will grow every year, year over year, because of what he's able to bring on both sides of the floor. I think he'll plug in and I think he'll be impressive. That's the pitch. You're more skeptical than me,
Yeah.
but are there any holdups for you?
I like Carter Bryant though.
Yeah.
I think in especially in today's NBA, you just need good guys. You just need a lot of like good players. Like it isn't in the same like heliocentric way where one guy is going to win you the large majority of your games and he's going to control the entire game. Like that isn't probably going to happen anytime soon.
As a quick mention, we just saw it. J Dub had more touch time in game 4
Yeah.
than SGA because the defense dictated that that was what worked best. And while the Thunder are historically like they really do rely on SGA, he's a special player in that regard. he isn't heliocentric really, and their
Yeah.
offense isn't that. And then you go to the other side, and the Pacers are really not heliocentric.
Yeah.
And the teams that will be making the finals going forward and winning the finals, I presume, will not be heliocentric teams. And
Yeah.
there was one, and then Dallas traded him. Like we don't
Yeah.
need. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So like the league has changed. Like like rare archetypes are worth investing in. It's the reason why Orlando is willing to trade four picks for Desmond Bain. There is no
Do you
other
like
player
that
like
trade, by the way, for Orlando?
I think
I
the
like it.
theory I in theory I like the application of the play because there's no other player in the NBA like Desmond Bain. And he's like the absolute perfect fit. If you think Paolo Banchero is like lead on ball initiator, I just don't think that's what he is personally.
That's such a good point. I feel the exact same way. I'm like,
Yeah.
this is the trade you make if Paolo is the guy you need him to
Yeah.
be. It makes so much
Yes.
sense if Paolo
It's a
is
home
that guy.
run.
Yeah. And the 4 picks, I understand, but uh like they I don't think it's 4 picks directly for
Yeah.
Desmond. Like they had to get off of KCP. Like this there's a collection of things happening
Yeah.
there. But it does look impressive. But Bane is really solid.
Yeah.
And
He
he's a good defender. He can run secondary actions. He shot like what? He's the third highest volume above the break 3-point shooter over the past however many years. He shoots 42% on them. Like that is so meaningful playing. Paolo Banchero drives the ball. The dig comes from one pass away. It's
Yeah.
Desmond Bain instead of Anthony Black. That means
Yeah.
something in
That's
Orlando,
a lot.
man. Or
Yeah.
it's not Franz, or it's not whoever. It's Jalen. That's important. It'll help.
Yeah. And honestly, I think if John Morant was on the market, he doesn't go for 4 picks because of the rarity of like Desmond Bane's archetype. And like Carter Bryant in that sense is rare. His size and fluidity you don't see from wings. They're usually big plotters like Fleming who we covered. He more of a plotter, more of a big. Um
He moves like this, man.
he does.
Yeah.
He's like a goddamn ghoul. but 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 Carter Bryant, he has size to be able to guard up. I think he'll be able to guard up against bigs, and then he also will be able to move with a lot of perimeter players in the league and have the strength to guard those bigger wings. And not a lot of teams have that type of player.
Mhm.
One of the reasons why the Thunder's defense is amazing. They obviously have Lou Dort, Alex Caruso, but like Jalen Williams can guard so many different players on the floor because of his uniqueness with his size and athleticism and length. And Carter Bryant has a lot of those same features, like at least from his tool set. If I believe that he's going to be able to shoot, and I think he has shown pop and being able to put the ball on the floor and score from the mid range and have some playmaking flashes. Like all of this is he didn't play tons, so all of this is in like small doses. But he's a archetype of player that's very hard to draft. The Raptors drafted that type of player one time
Mhm.
and made a whole vision kind of trying to find that next player. But what they found out was OG Anunoby is just there is no OG Anunoby in the NBA.
Yeah.
So
Turns out that
I think
OG and Pascal and Scotty are all pretty unique players.
yeah, you just can't just keep drafting guys because you want to get the same player. So like I think he's worth taking at 9. Even if he's not an all-star, I think he could be a the 5th or 6th most valuable player in the class just because of how unique he is and what he can do on the floor.
To that point as well, a couple things. One, J Dub, like when Lou Dort is on Pascal, it's
Yeah.
barbecue chicken. As good as
Yeah.
Lou Dort is, as good as Lou Dort is, Lou has no idea how to check Pascal.
Mhm.
Caruso is really good denying, but like if they get flattened out, Pascal's been
Mhm.
able to go to his back and bully drive. J Dub has done a fantastic job on Pascal,
Yeah.
and he's giving up size there. And man, oh, J Dub's so impressive to me. He also cuts so well. And also Desmond Bain. When I asked Darko, he said he's the most talented player he's ever coached. If you remember that, and it was because he said Desmond can take concepts he gets coached that day and put them on an NBA floor in an NBA game later, which is an incredible feat,
Yeah.
obviously. All right, Carter Bryant. Pick 39. Who do you got for me? Who would you
I,
love?
I like Sion James a lot. I'm not positive he's going to be there at 39. The NIL situation kind of
Yeah.
nuked all of the second round. To be honest, there's a bunch of guys
Don't
that I
don't
like.
feel bad about it, man. Like if we were in the business of knowing who's going to be available at 39,
Yeah,
we'd get paid way more. Well, I'd
that's a
get paid.
fact.
You'd probably get paid similar in a different field, but I'd get paid more money.
But I think in terms of role, it at 39, you want a guy that's gonna be able to fit a role, and the Raptors want to be good. That ideally has impact kind of immediately. Sion James is a guy that shoots the ball fairly well. He has the like girth and density to be able to guard a lot of perimeter players and give them issues.
Has there
And
ever been like a skinny guy named Sion or Zion? I feel like everybody with that name
yeah,
is like you're a big boy.
yeah, he's a muscle bro. Clearly, like he's built like that, and his movement skills. I would never compare anyone to Lou Dort, but Lou Lou Dort, while not necessarily being lightning quick in the sense of like his lateral speed, he's able to cover tons of ground because he feels you. He puts his hands on you and is able to direct you in traffic. Sion does a lot of those similar things because he has that size. So I think in for the Raptors, you want more players that can be able to handle physicality. I think the biggest thing from the playoffs, like defenses, are very good at being able to take away the opposing team because of that physicality. And you need guys that aren't just be able to be not aren't just able to meet guys at spots. You need guys to be able to blow up actions and be able to have the strength of doing so. I think that's kind of the shift within the league that like Drew Holiday, Derek White type of like size and strength, Andrew Nemhard in the same sense. I he's around 6'5", 6'6". I don't think that's like a deterrent of him being able to guard bigger players also. So I think he fits a role like fairly easily. He's 22 and he could be in the Raptors rotation next season.
Yeah. For me, it's Adou Thiero. The pitch is actually very similar to Carter Bryant. He's
Yeah.
smaller than Carter is, and the jump shot is farther away. But
Yeah.
I think his handle is a little bit farther along than Carter's. Of course, being smaller means a lot, and
Yeah.
that's why he's talked about in one sense, and Carter's talked about in another. But Adu, I think, could be. We're just talking about like Dort, Caruso, and Derek White and Drew Holiday, and like this slew of 6'4", 6'5" size. Like I guess Adu is a little bit bigger than that, but these types of guards who, Drew is the exception, but guards who get drafted a little bit later, develop and work on their offense over time and make sure that they get on the floor with their defense. I think he
Yeah.
represents an opportunity to like pick a guy like that. And again, I don't know if he'll be available at 39. As you said, NIL and the ability to like take a guy who might want to enter the draft and be like, you can have $7 million or
Yeah.
something like that. That's
Yeah.
and that's good for these players. Like that's
Mhm.
a clear positive. That stuff, it changes it. But Adu, I think, is a talented mover. I think I'm not exactly certain about the jumper coming around, but it's a second round pick. It's a bit of a flyer. You like
Yeah.
if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like sometimes it's I mean, who Dewan Hernandez sometimes, and sometimes it's Norman Ulrich Shomshay, future All Star.
Well,
With those back end of the
yeah.
second round picks. Although 39 isn't. Remember how excited we were about 39
Yeah.
before the NIL stuff? We're like,
I was like,
wow,
"Oh man, it's basically a first round
yeah,
pick."
it's better than a first rounder because of the contract flexibility. Um, yeah, very funny. So,
Oh,
do you hear that?
no, again.
Oh, somebody's like pouring water somewhere, and it's like anyway.
Oh,
So, but regardless, what I mean to say is that I think, given his movement skills, his size, his athleticism, that there's a reasonable chance that he can develop some of the finer skills of being like a larger guard, and then he
Mhm.
can provide some pop at the next level. And it might take him a while to define those skills for himself and see what it looks like at the next level. But he's a second round player with all the flexibility that comes with that contract, with all the affordability that comes with that contract. And if you're the Raptors and you actually believe like, hey, we develop and make players better in house, I think he's a good guy to take a shot on. Although, if I had to guess, both the guys we talked about are probably going before 35.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if they're there at 39, because like I'll just be happy if a name I recognize is picked at 39. To be honest, I'll be like, nice, hell yeah, dude. Because this is the thing. This is the one thing that this podcast will not do. We will not pretend.
That's a fact.
Everyone pretends, and you and I were just like very honest. Like, we've seen this guy, we know this guy. We don't. We earnestly attempt to cover the draft. We go in and watch stuff, but we don't pretend like, oh yeah, I've seen this guy. He's and then like vague descriptions of a basketball
Yeah.
player. We don't pretend. We'll be like, who the hell is he? And and if we get a guy I've seen and know at 39, I'm over the moon because I'm like, I know, I can talk about him.
If I were to guess, I feel like they don't pick at 39. I feel like they do some maneuvering. I guess the question I'll ask you, since there's been lots of talk about the Raptors trading this pick, which I'd be so sad about.
9.
Yeah, if they trade this pick. There's also talk about them trading back. There's obviously two teams with two first round picks. There's the Oklahoma City Thunder, who have 15 and 24, I believe, and Atlanta, who have 13 and 22. Would you take any of those offers to move back from 9?
Mm,
It's tricky.
I don't. No, 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 no. I don't think I would
Mm,
because honestly, like let's be real about it.
yeah,
Unless like if you're just doing it from like the value of it, I don't think you do it
yeah,
because the most important thing from this draft is getting a guy.
mhm,
It's not like, I mean, Brandon Ingram is on the team now. Scotty Barnes is on the team.
yeah,
Jakob Poeltl, Emmanuel Quickly, RJ Barrett. They've drafted Grady and Jacoby. They clearly like both of them. They could pay Ochai. They could move him on. Like
mhm,
they could, I pitched actually I did the video earlier today. I was like, I wonder if there's an Ochai Kispert situation that you can do. Like if maybe Washington really liked Ochai, but there's just, you have to get a guy. They don't
yeah,
need like copious amounts. They need a guy that you feel extremely good about. And let's say you're playing the system. The Raptors have a really great sense of like, we know exactly how this draft is going to turn out, which no team does.
yeah,
Then fine, if you know you can still get your guy, great. However, those are pretty far back,
yeah,
and the value of it, I think, with this team, what's more important is definitely like getting that guy on, especially if you like Jamal Shed, which I'm not like a huge Jamal Shed guy for the basketball player, the person. I mean, he's unbelievable, but I you got to get a guy you love and you believe in more than anything from this draft. I think it's so essential that I wouldn't piddle around, prestying around like, oh, we have all. Just get the guy and get it
yeah.
right is how I feel. In the past, I mean, you and I have giggled like, schoolgirls like, oh, we got more picks, like, but I'm over it. We're
Yeah.
past that stage.
Yeah, I've been thinking about this all day. I'm still leaning to keeping the pick. I don't even think the Raptors, in an ideal world, want to have two rookies on this team because there won't be minutes to go around because they're going to be trying to win. So I think you're drafting at 9 and you're drafting someone that you're confident that they're either going to be a starter like fairly soon, year 2, year 3, or like they can have some impact because it looks like the Raptors are going to want to compete for like a championship within the next 2 years at least.
If they don't make the playoffs next year, that's a
Um,
huge miss.
yeah, I'd be very disappointed.
Like this team wants to, and the selection this year doesn't impact that. Very
Yeah.
few rookies ever do. But by year 2, year 3, it's showtime, you know?
Yeah.
It's time to go.
Yeah.
Brandon Ingram got paid. We're clearly something is happening in Toronto. We'll see if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but they something is happening, and I'm glad they abandoned it because I can't remember, it was Austin Rivers talked about maybe where he was like the most job security anyone ever has is when they're tanking, and how that's
Yeah.
kind of proliferated throughout some of the organizations in the NBA is just like you just say like, oh yeah, like it's this genius thing and we'll be tanking, and then in 5 years check back in with me. It's like
Yeah. And
I don't
like
know.
sometimes like it doesn't work out. Like we talked about it
Most
like
of the time.
yeah, that's true. Utah traded Donovan Mitchell 3 years ago, going on 4 years.
Oh.
They haven't even gained a little bit of ground on getting good because they purposely have tried to be poor.
And for
Which
what? And for what, man? Like, come on.
yeah,
For the 5th pick, dog. Like, I just
yeah, it's rough. And
that team
they
depresses
obviously
me.
yeah, they obviously have Laurie Markkinen, who's a good player, but you're
They don't even like them themselves, man.
yeah. So like you're not in a position where you're any further along. And Donovan Mitchell is on a great similar to the Raptors situation. Donovan Mitchell is on the 1 seed. Rudy Gobert's made 2 Western Conference Finals in a row. Like really good players are hard to it's hard to recreate the magic of having those good players and hitting on players. Like Donovan Mitchell, they what picked like I want to say 11th. Rudy Gobert, they got
13th,
super late. 13th.
13th for Donovan, 27th for Rudy.
What are the odds of that ever happening again? The Raptors is the same thing. Fred VanVleet, they get undrafted. Yeah, Pascal Siakam, they get what 28,
27 as
20.
well.
Yeah, what are the odds of that happening again? You kind of
Yeah.
have to strike when the iron is hot, and I'm glad the Raptors are doing that.
Yeah. OG was early 20s
Yeah,
too. The sexy blogger pick, I remember at the time. Man, it's tough to get it right. And, like,
yeah,
also, I talked about this in the video I did, but it's like the Pacers, you go look, they very seldom re-sign the players they draft. Like, it just doesn't really happen. Nembhard just got it, but and Mathurin hasn't signed yet, by the way. But go look at the Pacers draft picks. They don't re-sign guys. They draft guys, they pull out their contracts, then they leave or they get traded. And the Pacers built a finals team off of just trades.
yeah,
Just trades. And there's opportunity for the Raptors to obviously move up using trades as well. But you have to supplement it with good drafting, and that's what the Pacers did with Nembhard more than anyone else. And Mathurin obviously scoring 27 was nuts. But yeah, it's just like, but also Mathurin is the 6th pick, and they're like, we're not exactly how he fits going forward. It's like
yeah,
we traded for Neesmith, we traded Brogdon away, and we got this Neesmith guy, and Neesmith is more important than the
yeah,
6th overall pick. Jarris Walker, I do really like though. I think we'll see it next year if I had to guess. But yeah, man, the Raptors, they have a world of opportunity in front of them, but I hope they stick with the 9th pick.
yeah. Me too.
If yeah, because I watched and I liked the guys,
Yeah,
so I'm like, yeah, because the farther they go down, I'm like, I know less and less. I don't know. I didn't see much Liam McNeely, if you know what I mean.
fair enough. Imagine we go on stream the Raptors just straight out of the drafts.
That would be that would be that was like Josh when he was here for the draft lottery. He and I
Yeah.
were sitting, just hanging out. Oleg was sitting on the bed. We're just talking about like, oh, who would you like? And then the Raptors, the lottery happened, and they got 8th, so the pick went to San Antonio. And I was like, oh, okay. I just turned to Josh like, is there anyone interesting at 31? And he's like, okay, yeah, I know a couple guys. I don't have that pivot in me. I
Yeah.
I, I don't have that pivot in me, and I know you don't either.
No.
It's just yeah, we need to get a liar on the podcast. We need a third Mike
Yes.
who's like will lie. Oh,
Yeah.
I mean, there's a very obvious
There's
answer
such a
here.
good joke there. There's such
That's funny. Okay,
Ooh.
before we get out of here, tell me about Kofi Kingston, please.
Wow. We're finally hitting this. Okay. This is mid 2000s, you know. dancehall
Okay.
reggae music is some of the greatest. It still is, but
Yeah.
really popping off at the time. Kofi
Not for
Kingston.
me. In Saskatchewan, it's more like we're think of Limp Bizkit, that kinda stuff, you know? Or the song from Coach Carter, "Phoenix and consternation." Okay, anyway, go ahead.
It's Kofi Kingston, who's like originally from Ghana. He's coming up
Mhm.
amateur wrestler. Vi- Vince McMahon has wanted to hit on the Caribbean market. So he goes to you and says, "God damn it, we're gonna make you Jamaican." And and he wears the Jamaican colors. His name is Kofi Kingston, and I you probably haven't seen this in Saskatchewan. Have you ever heard of the dance like the thunderclap? No.
I don't think so. What is the
Okay.
thunderclap?
You just it's like this.
Oh, that's wait,
Yeah.
was that the precursor to the boop, 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 boop? Is
It's one of the moves. It's one of the moves.
okay, okay.
So they would play I think it was a Movado song, who's a dance artist, and he would just run through the entrance and just start thunderclapping everywhere. He had a Jamaican accent the entire time. So he's in the WWE for I want to say five or 6 years now, maybe a little
Wait, can I
longer.
can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
What's his real name? He's Ghanaian.
Yes. Kofi Mensah.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Kofi Mensah is now Kofi Kingston, just like Sean.
So obviously like social media comes and then the entire internet realizes that he's not Jamaican.
Hmm.
And Jamaican Twitter beats him down to the freaking ground, tearing him up, adding WWE constantly. So he goes, I think this is like maybe 2 or 3 weeks after they find out. And I forgot what the particular line was, but they just go and go, "You're not Jamaican?" He's like, "No, I'm not Jamaican." And they just move on like nothing ever happened. He still goes by Kofi Kingston, but he just pretends like he's not Jamaican.
Wait,
It's one of the best stories.
so he's when he wrestles, he's not Jamaican anymore now.
No, he's not Jamaican anymore at all.
They just gave it up?
They just gave it up. Yet people found out.
But I thought kayfabe was kind of like part of it. Or is that's not kayfabe?
Kayfabe is he's supposed to Kayfabe would suggest he's supposed to continue it on, but he like they said it in a way where like he just said he wasn't Jamaican and kept it moving, but like he was still Kofi Kingston, which is like a middle ground, gray area.
That is interesting. Because I would have thought he'd be like the Undertaker would be like, guys, I'm not actually because he's dead, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I guess well, death and Jamaican culture are not exactly synonymous.
But like
with-
just drop things sometimes. Like the Muhammad Hassan guy I
oh,
told you
yep.
about in our first, they just
Buongiorno.
it's just real. I watched a documentary about him like 2 days ago. I didn't even know he was Italian. Just shit like that.
Damn. So
Yeah.
Kofi Kingston is Kofi Kingston. He wears different colors now?
Yeah, he's in like a Hall of Fame tag team though. It's great. Like they're like it's for like kids. They're called the New Day. You play like one of them plays the trombone. They dance. It's a good time.
Wow. I think I saw him wrestle last year with Blake. Was he at a Royal Rumble last year?
Last year was he in the Rumble? I think it was the year before that.
Hmm.
But
Then
yeah,
okay. Well, I
I'm,
saw him wrestle, and I was
I
like,
missed an
"This."
integral part of the story.
Oh, what is it?
He after he drops the Jamaican stuff, he becomes insanely popular, and then he becomes he becomes the first black wrestler to win the WWE Championship.
Wait, did like who's Booker T never won?
Booker
Wasn't
T
he
won like
popular?
Booker T won like the World Heavyweight Championship, which is like number two.
Oh, wait. So what year did Kofi Kingston win?
I want to say it was pre-COVID. I want to say 2019. Kofi Kingston.
Wow, that's crazy. So
Yeah.
he dropped the Jamaican shtick, and then they elevated him to a win. Or I guess he got super popular. Was it
Yeah, he
just
won.
because people talked about him?
I think so. It was like a combination of that. Like he's super athletic, does a bunch of tricks, but then like yeah, the internet really knew about him after that
Mm.
moment,
Like, so no press is bad press kind of thing. Like
pretty much.
everyone, it was a scandal, but only the Jamaicans were out for blood. Everyone else was just kind of like
Yeah,
responding it to probably the way I am, where I like, that's funny.
it's funny.
He's a good
He
wrestler though.
was like- yeah, yeah, he won in 2019.
Wow,
Yeah,
interesting. I've so basically my understanding of wrestling is just like lying, but
yeah,
with acrobatics.
yes,
Pretty compelling because lying is kind of like a very compelling thing. Like I watched Game of Thrones, man. I read Game of Thrones.
yeah,
Lying as entertainment is, you can also look at the political age we're in. All that stuff, huge. And you throw in like Kofi Kingston. I'm pretty sure he was doing some sort of stunt when I saw him, where he's just hanging out and like refused to fall out of
yeah.
the whatever because he's so jacked and like talented. Good idea.
Yeah, he does one of those stunts like every year for the Rumble. There was one where he jumped, and I think it was like at least
Oh,
5 or 6
Blake
feet.
told me about this.
And he lands on the little announcer chair and then jumps all the way back. I went insane for it.
Yeah, that's yes, I remember that. Blake was like, yeah, he just jumps. The floor is lava, basically, right? Like
Yeah,
you can't touch. God, I love that game growing up. I was so happy when the TV show Community, which I know you're not
yeah,
really into, but you know of, they
yeah.
did a Floors Lava episode. That was television, man. Peak. Wow.
Peak.
Okay. So now I know more about the WWE because I never like when I say I haven't seen it, people are shocked because, and I'm a little shocked too because it was like everyone, it was in the background. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Mhm.
everyone had seen it to some degree, but I just really didn't see a lick of it, which is also strange because my dad loved wrestling.
Jeez,
Like,
who's his favorite wrestler?
oh, I don't know. It would be old because, well, my dad loved it as a kid, but
Mm,
he didn't watch it much growing up. I think, you have a kid at 18, you got to grow up pretty fast. You know what I mean?
fair
He's
enough.
like, this wrestling is such bullshit, man. I gotta buy baby formula or whatever. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Um, and so I don't know who his favorite wrestler was, but yeah, he watched a lot of wrestling growing up. But yeah, never in our house, which it makes me feel like I've missed out on something because I just like hearing you and Kai scream, and I was in the shower downstairs, and I just and I was like, and I ran up, and there's people running around and everything, and I was like, what could possibly motivate this?
I remember it, bro. I remember you're like, I think good and Jay. So when Amir and Kai are like, that could never happen. It doesn't fit the storyline at all. He wins. We explode. You're just like, oh, just
Yeah,
another
and
day.
then there was the ladder match too with
Mhm.
Kevin Owens. It's the
Yeah.
best wrestling I've ever seen, man. Insanity.
Mhm.
Oh, all right. Anything you want to say to people before we get out of here?
Um, there likely will be an NBA champion the next time we speak. Um, I just think it's like the ratings talk and like that's been going on. I think it's cool to see that like good basketball is like being played and it's two small markets. And I watched it with all of our dearest friends on the weekend, like having a ball watching it. I think it goes to show like the new stars of the NBA are cool. Tyrese Halliburton, SGA have been going back and forth, and like there isn't. I'm confident there isn't going to be like a gape. Like I'm going to cry when LeBron James does retire, but I
Hmm.
don't think there's going to be a gaping hole in like the same sense like it was in like say like early 2000s when Michael Jordan retired. Like the talent in the NBA is enormous right now.
Yeah, it's similar to soccer. There is no Messi or Ronaldo stepping up. It's just like Mbappe is not that. It's almost like the media environment of that like late 90s, early 2000s so badly wanted like that replacement uber star that they
Yeah,
created these guys, and guys like LeBron, guys like Messi, guys like Ronaldo, and let's say even like Federer, even like
hmm,
Nadal,
yeah,
and Djokovic, like everyone stepped up and took the mantle that was kind of hoisted onto them.
yeah,
But now I don't think we're desperate for that mantle. And LeBron how could you ever walk those step
Yeah.
into those shoes? I don't. His story is so. He was the greatest prospect of all time, and then he was better than that for every
Yeah.
year until he's 41. Like it just yeah.
Yeah.
The
Like we're just never gonna see that again. And like even those type of players are kind of engulfing in a sense. Where like if they feel inevitable, like as a Raptor
mhm.
fan, if you put those Raptors, those Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan teams in 2024, 2025, you're like, they're a cool, interesting team. They have a chance to win it all, but you just didn't feel that way in 2016, 2017 because the talent gap was just too large.
He was 8 years in a row.
Yeah.
He represented the East in the finals 8 years in a row. It was like it was the most earned, inevitable feeling of all time. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it's after a champion wins, and then they're always the odds on team to win the next season, even though it hasn't happened. There hasn't been a repeat in however
Yeah.
long. Even 2 titles in 3 years just hasn't happened. Everyone's like, well, the Nuggets won in 2023, so like they'll probably win the next year. It's like, no, and then you
Yeah.
go back just like 5 years before that, and it's like 8 years in a row of LeBron being like, no one is touching the NBA Finals out of the East except me. And it didn't
Yeah.
matter what team, it didn't matter what players were there. He's like, Matthew Dellavedova, this rat from Australia, we're going to the finals. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
like,
It's just time, like times have changed, and I think it's more interesting in the sense, and like a team like Orlando could just say, "Fuck it, I'm going to trade for Desmond Brandon. We're going to go for it." The Raptors said, "We're going to trade for Brandon Ingram and go for it,"
mhm.
and it looks like they're probably going to do something else too. So it's fun
it's
times.
it's good for the parody is good, and also for a media environment, a fan environment that is very horny for transactions. It's good for that too, just constantly teams trying to load up. It reminds me
Yeah,
a little bit of when the Warriors kind of like got to the top end. There was
yeah,
like four teams that were like, we're gonna ante up with them, and we're gonna
yeah,
like try really hard to knock them off the pedestal. And it really it didn't work necessarily. Like after once they got Kevin Durant, other teams tried to load up and match with them.
yeah,
It just didn't happen. They couldn't take him off the pedestal. But now it seems like that group of four teams is like a group of 12 teams, and there's 12 teams in the league at any given time that are like, let's see,
yeah,
let's trust in these guys. It's a good place to be. It's fun. And
yeah,
I understand from I don't watch La Liga, the Spanish league, but El Clasico is huge because it's Real Madrid and Barcelona, and there is
mm,
some brand association that's important. The NBA might lose a little bit of that, but for people who watch a lot of games, I think it's never been in a better place. There's a lot
yeah.
of good basketball.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right. Listeners, thank you for tuning in with us. Forgot to do the like, comment, subscribe at the top. I was so good last time, not good this time. We appreciate you very much. It helps out the podcast. From myself and Trevon, thank you. And whether you got into this in the morning or at night, have a blessed day and goodbye.